All right, what do you look like on paper? How many of you have a universal resume? It's not bad to have. It's nice to have so you can tweak it here and there, but you should not have a universal resume that goes out to everyone. If you're sending that resume to Coca-Cola for a marketing position over their distribution, you cannot send that same resume to Exxon to be one of their chemical sales reps. What I encourage you to do is to take that, the job description of the job you're looking for, look at what it says. If they say, I'm looking for somebody who is willing to travel, somebody who enjoys learning new things, somebody who, if they mention a number of buzzwords in there, take those buzzwords and integrate that into your resume. Okay? I'd put on there, I'd say, okay, I'm willing to travel. I enjoy learning new things. And a lot of times what happens, especially with large companies, is they will send your resume through a system that looks for the buzzwords that run parallel to what they've got in the job description. So if they have hardworking, and your resume has hardworking, there's a match. This person may be a good candidate. It doesn't happen all the time, but they will have buzzword systems that they'll send resumes through. That's how Monster works. That's how Jobbox works. A lot of the large corporations like Frito-Lay, Coca-Cola, all of those, you send that your resume in, they may get 1,000 of them. So they send it through to say, okay, they have 0 buzzwords in their resume that run along with what the job description is, so they're probably not a good candidate. It's not always going to get you a job, but if it gets you past that first little sifting of the hundreds of resumes they have, it's going to put you in good standing. Only pertinent information. Okay? If you were the world's greatest ping pong champion in high school, or your school, in your subdivision, that's not pertinent information. Okay? If you have a fairly thin resume, stick with what is pertinent. They do not care if your favorite video game is Halo. They do not care. Okay? So when you're looking at your resume, what I would look in there and say, would the person looking to hire me for this position care if I did this? If you say, no, they wouldn't care, don't put it on there. It's a waste of time. Okay? Presentation. I would just look at what standard resumes look like. I'd figure out what a professional resume looks like. If you're talking to, if you get on the phone with somebody who's going to hire somebody in 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, I would ask them. I'd say, hey, do you have an example of a resume format? I'm willing to do what I need to make, make a good impression. Or if you want it to look a certain way, I'm willing to change the way I'm doing things. Show some flexibility, and also make sure that it looks right when it comes across their desk. Don't just put it together the night before. Don't wing this thing. This is a very, when people say I'm looking for a job and I can't find one, I ask, what are you doing? Well, at 5 o'clock in the evening, I typically post my resume on Monster 3 or 4 times and wait for the phone to ring. That's not how looking for a job works. Okay, so when you're going through this process, you need to take this and make this your job, okay, along with school. When you're sitting there, you need to treat this as it's serious. If you get a job where you're making $60,000 a year versus $40,000 a year, and you work there for 3 years, can anybody do the math? That's $60,000 difference, okay? A $60,000 difference that may have been swung because you did one of these things. Would you work on a resume for 5 hours for $60,000? Anybody shaking their head no? You probably don't need a job anymore. So this is serious. Friendly feedback. What I did with my resume is I sent it out to about 10 different people, friends, family, any business relationships, anyone I knew, any hiring directors. If you have a friend's parent that's an HR, VP of HR, or does any kind of hiring for anyone. And my wife does, or used to, do a bunch of the hiring for Sewell Automotive in Dallas. And I would talk to her, hey, what are some of the crazy things you see? Okay, and I'll tell you the recent funny one. It's a bachelor degree, okay? Regardless if you are a male or a female. It is not a bachelorette's degree. Okay? Ladies, you cannot get a bachelorette's degree in science. Okay? So, that may have saved one lady in this room from missing a job. It is not a bachelorette's degree. But run it by friends, families, professors, run it by different people and let them say, hey, I want you to give me your initial feedback. Make any changes you feel necessary. I need your help. When I did it, I probably sent it out to 50 people. I sent it to presidents of banks, VPs of HR, friends, families, roommates, roommates' girlfriends. I mean, I sent it out to everyone to try to get some feedback. And I got a lot of honest feedback. So I highly encourage you, once you get your resume put together, send it to your close friends and tell them, hey, I need your feedback. I need to be honest. Don't worry about hurting my feelings. I need to know what you think. All right, differentiate yourself. These are some other things you can add on there. Just a couple small things. Hobbies. Now, here's a discretion with hobbies. Hobbies only if you can make that hobby apply to business or to the job. If you can find a way where that would complement what you would be doing, for me, I put reading and travel. Shows that I'm well traveled, shows that I enjoy learning, or I enjoy reading, and I've got no problem doing that when I come to work for you. Don't put, I enjoy, like I said, video games. Unless you're going into video game design, probably not going to help you. Don't put, I like seeing how fast I can eat a large pizza. That's not going to help you. But hobbies, if it pertains to what you look at, okay? A quote. I put a quote on all of my resumes just because inevitably I'll get asked, hey, tell me about this quote you got at the bottom. And I'll put, some type of quote on there. So those are two things I put on there. Any questions on that? I put it as a footer. So if you go on there, I'll just put it at the very bottom, small print, doesn't get in the way, just as a footer. And so it typically needs to be kind of a succinct quote. You don't need to go out there with a 4-paragraph quote. But either that or sometimes I'll put it on the back, just at the very top of the back. So it's nothing that's going to take away from what they need to look at, but it may spark conversation. Okay? Yes?
When you talk about those quotes, do you mean something that you came up with yourself or something?
No, I pull, different things depending on the job. Like I said, a lot of these quotes, I love them because they're just very succinct thoughts. They're very quick, to the point, and they communicate a very direct opinion on something. So it may involve hard work. It may be like the bird one. God will give you food, but He will not throw it in your nest. That's just what I do. I'll put a very succinct quote at the bottom. Yeah.
You got a lot of good stuff with like the hobbies and that type of thing.
Yeah.
When you think about a resume outline,
Yeah.
how you think of a full resume in your head, how do you fit all that stuff on that one single page?
It's a good question. I mean, it's nice to have the issue where you're going, how do I fit it all, versus how big do I need to make the writing to make this fill up the page. So that's just something you've got to look at. And here's the deal. You are smart enough. If you're sitting in this room, you probably already thought about this stuff a lot. You are already way ahead of the people that decided to sleep in this morning. Okay? So what I'm telling you is that if you can fit it, if it makes sense for your situation, and if it pertains, because when I put traveling on there, somebody will inevitably ask, so where all have you been? And I say, well, I've got 2 more states to go to. I've been in 48 states. Every continent except for Antarctica. Why'd you travel so much? Well, my dad did a bunch of speaking and training and consulting for large companies, and I would travel with him to different locations where he would speak. And so it would kind of dive into a little bit of my background, and that pertains. I've been able to sit in conferences and sit next to CEOs of Fortune 500 companies when I was 8 years old. That would pertain to a job. That's not exactly work experience, but it is a nice little addition. So if it makes sense to you, you're sitting here going, do I put a quote from Abraham Lincoln, or do I put my last job on there? I stick with the job. Okay? But you've got to make the call. It's just, if you've got room, I think it'll help.